Please, I whispered, gripping the hospital bedrail. Something is wrong with my chest. Dr. Evan Ritter didn't even turn from the computer. Maya, this is anxiety. I blinked at him. I collapsed this morning. You fainted, he corrected. There's a difference. My heart monitor kept beeping faster. The nurse near the doorway glanced at the screen, then at him. Doctor. I've got it, he said. That was when I realized he hadn't looked at me once. Not really. He had looked at my chart, found the anxiety medication I took last year, and decided the rest of my symptoms didn't matter. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My arm is numb, I said. I can't breathe right. He clicked something on the computer. You're fine. I'm sending you home. Around us, the emergency room was packed, curtains half open, shoes squeaking, people pretending not to listen. I felt my face burn. Like I had made a scene. Like I was wasting everyone's time. Dr. Ritter printed the discharge papers before my final results had even been explained to me. The nurse's eyes moved back to the monitor beside my bed. Something on her face shifted. But before she could speak, I tried to stand. The floor tilted. Maya, the nurse said. I can't. My knees gave out. I hit the floor hard enough that the bedrail rattled. The monitor screamed. Suddenly, the room exploded into movement. The nurse dropped beside me, one hand on my shoulder, the other reaching toward the computer screen. Then she froze. Her voice changed completely. Dr. Ritter, she said, you didn't see the flagged result. For the first time all night, he looked scared. My hearing faded as someone shouted for a crash cart. The nurse leaned over me. Stay with me. I tried to breathe. Nothing happened. The last thing I saw was Dr. Ritter staring at the screen he should have checked minutes earlier. Then everything went black. When I woke up again, something was forcing air into my lungs. I jerked instinctively. Easy, someone said quickly. Don't pull the mask off. The ceiling above me looked unfamiliar, brighter, closer. My chest burned every time I inhaled. Voices carried through the curtains surrounding my bed. She coded for almost 40 seconds. That doesn't happen from a panic attack. I recognized the second voice immediately. The nurse. Lena. I stayed still. He had the alert before she collapsed, Lena whispered. Dr. Ritter answered sharply. The system flags people constantly. She had elevated inflammation markers. And anxiety patients spike vitals all the time. My stomach twisted. They were arguing about me like I wasn't even there. A machine beside my bed beeped steadily while I tried piecing together what had happened. The collapse. The monitor. The look on Lena's face. Then another memory surfaced. 3 weeks earlier, sitting on the floor outside my biology class because climbing stairs suddenly made my chest hurt. My roommate laughing nervously. You seriously need to sleep more. Even I had started believing stress explained everything. Because every time I mentioned symptoms, someone brought up anxiety first. The curtains suddenly moved. I shut my eyes again. Footsteps approached. Her mother just arrived, Lena said quietly. Fine, Dr. Ritter replied. I'll explain. A few seconds later, my mom rushed into the room. Maya. Her voice cracked instantly. I opened my eyes slowly. Oh my God. She grabbed my hand so tightly it hurt. What happened to you? Before I could answer, Dr. Ritter stepped beside the bed with perfect calm. She likely experienced a stress-induced syncopal episode. My mom blinked. A what? A fainting episode connected to anxiety. I stared at him through the oxygen mask. Even after I stopped breathing, he was still saying it. My mother looked terrified, but she collapsed. She's stable now. Lena stood near the counter, silently holding several printed pages. Not discharge papers, Something else. My mom looked between them. Then why is cardiology involved? The room went quiet. Overhead speakers suddenly crackled. Cardiology consult to ER Bay 4. Dr. Ritter's jaw tightened. My mother turned toward Lena. What aren't you telling us? Lena hesitated. Then she looked directly at my mom. Did anyone explain what was actually in Maya's test results? The hallway lights streaked above me as they rushed my bed through the hospital. Everything had changed in less than an hour. Before I collapsed, they were trying to discharge me. Now nurses were moving fast enough to nearly slam my bed into corners. My mother jogged beside us, breathless. What test results? She demanded again. Somebody tell me what's happening. Nobody answered her. A sharp pain ripped through my chest. I doubled forward and started coughing violently. Dark red blood splattered across the towel in my hand. My mother froze. Oh my God. People in the waiting area turned immediately. A man stood up from his chair. A little kid stared openly. Someone whispered, "Wasn't she the girl getting discharged?" Then another voice cut through the hallway. What is going on here? Dr. Ritter. He stepped toward the bed looking irritated instead of concerned. A second doctor stopped beside him, a tall man in dark blue scrubs with cardiology stitched across his chest. Dr. Chen. He looked directly at Maya's chart tablet, then at Dr. Ritter. Why was a possible endocarditis patient being discharged? The hallway fell silent. Even the nurses stopped moving. Dr. Ritter crossed his arms. The alert came through after she collapsed. Lena looked stunned. That's not true. Everyone turned toward her. Dr. Ritter's expression hardened instantly. Excuse me. I saw the flagged result before she fell, Lena said carefully. You're mistaken. No, she replied, I'm not. My mother slowly pulled out her phone. Dr. Ritter noticed immediately. You can't record inside the ER. You almost sent my daughter home, she shot back. People nearby openly started watching now. The tension spread through the hallway so fast it felt physical. Dr. Chen stepped closer to Dr. Ritter. What exactly did you review before discharge? For the first time, Dr. Ritter hesitated. Not long, but long enough. Long enough for every nurse nearby to notice. Long enough for me to notice. The authority he walked around with all night suddenly cracked. Dr. Chen turned sharply toward the transport team. Move her now. They rushed me into imaging before the argument could continue. Inside the scan room, the machines hummed around me while specialists crowded near glowing monitors. Dr. Chen studied the screen in silence. His face slowly changed. I forced the words out through shallow breaths. What's wrong with me? He looked at me for a long moment. Then back at the scan. We may already be too late. I woke up in intensive care with wires attached to nearly every part of my body. My chest felt heavy, raw. Every breath hurt differently now, slower, deeper, like my lungs were bruised from the inside. A monitor beside me pulsed steadily. Alive. That was the first thing I understood. Alive. Dr. Chen stood near the end of the bed reviewing scans on a tablet. You're awake, he said. My mother immediately stood from the chair beside me. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept once since I collapsed. What happened? I asked. Dr. Chen lowered the tablet. You have a bacterial infection affecting tissue around your heart. I stared at him blankly. We caught it before it caused irreversible valve damage, he continued, but it became critical very quickly. My mother covered her mouth. If she'd gone home, she asked quietly. Dr. Chen paused. Then he answered honestly. That could have been fatal. The room went silent except for the monitor. All I could hear in my head was Dr. Ritter saying, You're fine. Later that afternoon, hospital administrators started appearing outside my room. People in suits. Whispering. Taking notes. Something bigger was happening now. By evening, my mother had already filed a formal complaint, and staff members were being interviewed one by one. That night, Lena slipped quietly into my ICU room carrying a thick folder. She shut the door behind her before speaking. I needed to show you this myself. She placed several printed pages onto my tray table. Rows of timestamps filled the paper. Notifications. Alert records. System logs. The hospital tracks every critical lab alert, Lena explained, including when they're opened. My stomach tightened. She pointed to one highlighted line. Critical alert viewed. Timestamp, 8:14 p.m. I collapsed at 8:17. My mother leaned closer to the page. Then she stopped breathing for a second. He saw it, she whispered. Lena nodded slowly. The system sent multiple warnings directly to his terminal. I looked back at the highlighted line again. Viewed. Not missed. Not delayed. Viewed. The room suddenly felt colder. There's more, Lena said carefully. She hesitated before continuing. This isn't the first complaint involving him. My mother looked up sharply. What do you mean? Several patients reported being dismissed before, Lena admitted. Mostly younger women, especially patients with anxiety histories. Outside my room, phones started ringing nonstop. Staff rushed through the ICU hallway. One administrator was arguing loudly with someone near the elevators. Then my mother's phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen. Her expression changed immediately. What? I asked. She turned the phone toward us. A social media post filled the screen. ER patient, nearly discharged before COLLAPSING. Thousands of shares. Comments flooding in. Someone had leaked the story. The next morning, Dr. Ritter was removed from active duty. But before noon, the hospital released a statement from him through legal staff. The patient's collapse was unforeseeable. Lena looked furious after reading it. Because sitting right in front of us was proof that statement was a lie. The investigation lasted 6 weeks. At first, the hospital tried keeping details quiet. That ended when the internal audit logs leaked. Once reporters saw the timestamps, everything changed. The records showed Dr. Ritter opened my critical alert 3 minutes before I collapsed. Not only that, he had also opened the follow-up recommendations attached to it. Possible cardiac infection. Immediate specialist evaluation advised. Continuous monitoring required. Instead, he started discharge paperwork. The story exploded online overnight. News vans parked outside the hospital for days. Former patients started coming forward almost immediately. One woman said Dr. Ritter dismissed severe abdominal pain as anxiety before another doctor discovered internal bleeding hours later. Another patient described being laughed at for asking if her symptoms could be heart-related. The hospital couldn't contain it anymore, especially after investigators uncovered something worse. During the same month I arrived in the ER, administrators had been pressuring emergency physicians about discharge speed and patient turnover metrics. Dr. Ritter's numbers had recently dropped. According to staff interviews, he'd become obsessed with moving patients quickly. And younger patients with anxiety histories became the easiest people to dismiss. Because once anxiety went into the chart, people stopped asking questions. When investigators confronted him with the system logs, Dr. Ritter initially claimed he never saw the alert clearly. Then forensic review uncovered edits made to his notes after I collapsed. The room recording from the disciplinary hearing was eventually released to legal teams. I watched part of it from home. Dr. Ritter sat rigidly at the table while investigators projected the timeline onto a screen. Alert received. Alert opened. Recommendations viewed. Discharge initiated. Collapse. One investigator leaned forward and asked quietly, "Can you explain why discharge orders began after you reviewed the critical warning?" For the first time since this started, Dr. Ritter had no answer. 3 days later, the hospital suspended his medical license pending permanent review. He lost his attending position before the month ended. The hospital announced mandatory escalation rules for all critical alerts after public backlash intensified. Meanwhile, my recovery kept going. Cardiac rehab 3 times a week. Medication every morning. Follow-up scans every month. Some days, walking across campus exhausted me. The physical recovery was hard, but the mental part stayed with me longer. I kept replaying the moment I almost believed him. The second I felt embarrassed enough to doubt what my body was telling me. One afternoon during rehab, Dr. Chen sat beside me after a session. "You know what saved you?" he asked. I gave a tired laugh, apparently collapsing in the ER. "No," he said. "You kept insisting something was wrong." That stayed with me. Months later, my college invited me to speak at a student health panel. I almost said no. Then during questions, a freshman stood up nervously and admitted she'd ignored severe symptoms for nearly a week because she was afraid doctors would think she was dramatic. The room went completely silent. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't only about me anymore. Too many people had heard the same words. "You're overreacting. You're anxious. You're fine." The hospital eventually settled multiple lawsuits connected to Dr. Ritter's cases. New patient advocacy signs appeared throughout the ER. Critical alerts now triggered automatic secondary review if physicians failed to respond quickly enough. And Lena testified in every hearing despite backlash from some coworkers who blamed her for exposing the hospital publicly. She ignored them because she knew what almost happened. A year later, I returned to the hospital for a final cardiac follow-up. Near the entrance, a new sign hung beside the reception desk. "Patient concerns must be escalated immediately if conditions worsen." I stood there reading it quietly. Then I heard someone call my name. Lena walked across the lobby smiling. "You look healthier," she said. "So do you." For a moment, neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. We both remembered the same night. The same alarms. The same floor. The same sentence that nearly killed me. The last thing Dr. Ritter told me was that I was fine. The next time people heard my name, it was in the investigation that ended his career.